Welcome to Formosa Dream Chasers.
We're your hosts, Mary Ann
and Qing-en.
Please join us as we explore the journeys amazing people take in pursuit of their dreams.
And get insights from their experiences.
Let's hit the road.
And get started.
Hello and welcome back. Today we are going to be talking about how pursuing one's passions doesn't necessarily mean only focusing on one thing. Today we are chatting with Niya Chen to talk about how she was able to pursue her passion for poetry while working a full-time career.
Niya is not only a poet with 2 published works under her real name, but also plans to release her 3rd book in the near future. So thank you for joining us today, Niya. Please say hello to our audience.
Hello, RTI's audience. Thanks for having me.
So, Niya, how would you describe yourself?
I would describe myself with 2 keywords. The first one is curious, and the second one would be observant. So through the process of reading and writing, I think I can discover the world as much as I can and turn it into a beautiful form.
What is your background? Like, what did you take up in university?
In my memory, I really like reading when I was a small child, maybe from 6 years old. I started to read a lot of fictions and also essays and nonfiction, of course. But when I really want to be a writer, it's from maybe 17 years old when I was in senior high school. So I choose to major in Chinese literature when I go into the university.
What do you study when you take up Chinese literature?
Before I went into university, I thought maybe Chinese literature will teach you how to write. But in fact, they don't teach you how to write, but we read a lot of history about Chinese and also philosophy about Chinese, of course, and about Asian poetry. So I think I spent a lot of time reading the whole myths and historical thing in Chinese.
Did that help you with your poetry? When did you start writing poetry?
I started writing poetry at 18 years old when I entered the university.
Was it because it was part of your work, like the school work, or was it because you just wanted to try it out by yourself?
I will say that the class helps sometimes, but mostly I write it by myself because I want to write it. And I entered a poetry club at the time. So we spend a lot of time writing with friends together.
As a poet, are there any activities or routines that you engage in to help you with your writing?
At first, I don't know about any poetry. And then when I start to read poetry, I start to learn that there's actually a very beautiful form. So I start to curious what poetry is. What's the most important thing in poetry? And then I met a lot of friends from the poetry club. We discuss a lot and we ask teachers sometimes. We have a reading club like every week. Just everyone gather and share each works and give us opinion.
I see. Are you still part of a poetry club right now?
No, that's only in university.
I see.
For 3 years.
Okay. So what does writing poetry mean to you? Why do you like writing poetry?
I think create things, it's about 2 sides. One is to how to create it, and the second is about what you want to create it. So I think choose a weapon, it's a first step to start create. Someone choose instrument to play music, right? And someone choose to be a painter. And for me, choose poets. I think it suits my personality. Because I like efficiency. I like clean and I like clear things. I want to do things as quick as I can. So poem, at that time, it's a very suitable for me. It's a very short form and it can contain a lot of things.
So you mean that you're able to write something and express something very quickly because a poem doesn't necessarily have to have a lot of words, but it can still express something meaningful despite it being, say, for example, short. That's why you like it. You find it very efficient. Is that what you mean?
Yes, and I would say like some of my friend who is a fiction writer.
Yeah.
he cares about details a lot.
Yeah.
So he cares about many details in a things. But for me, I care more about abstract things than detailed things.
The details. I see. Okay. We know you because you've published 2 books on poetry and you are working on publishing your 3rd. So why, like, from writing poetry out of your own self-interest,
Yes.
what was the process to actually deciding, oh, I want to publish a book of poems?
Okay. At first, I put my works on my blog and my Instagram. And then I start to get some readers from the website. And I feel so happy when someone's really reading my things and got feeling about that. So when I get a chance to publish a book, I definitely say yes. So I think I'm lucky when I got the chance at about 22 years. There is a publisher came to find me.
Oh, okay. Through your posts.
Through my work. I was work for a website at the time. And then I write some points for picture books marketing.
Okay.
So when I post that poem on the Facebook, it got a lot of share and like. So the website tried to come to find me, say, hey, are you interested in publish your own poetry books? And he's willing to raise fund
for the publishing of your
yes,
book.
for the publishing books.
Okay. So that was the first time on how you got published.
Yes, this was the first time.
Okay. And then from there, how did it move to like the second book?
The second book, I finished it maybe after 2 or 3 years. I choose a topic and finish it in about 50 poems in a collection. So I have a proposal for publisher. So I write them a letter to persuade them to publish my books.
I see. So it was a different publisher.
Yes, it was a different publisher.
I see. You said you had 50 poems for your second book. Then you made a proposal. For the first book, how many poems did you have to write?
When I got the chance to publish my first poetry collection, I opened a file. There is 140 works in that files, but I picked 35 from them. Because a lot of work I think it's immature yet, not good enough. I just
see.
give up.
By that time, at 22 years old, you actually wrote 100-something poems already?
Yes.
On your own, just because it was your interest and your passion?
Yes.
And then when the publisher came, then you picked 35 to print.
Yes.
How did your book do? Like, how was the reception?
Okay, my first book is sold about 1,000 copies.
Okay.
And then we just stopped printing.
Okay.
Because I think my first book, I'm not satisfied yet. I feel there's a lot of things not good enough.
Okay.
So after 1,000 books, because of the contract, we stop printing that. So it's you cannot buy it anywhere now. But the second book with a publisher, now it's selling about 700 for now.
Okay, and you're working on your third poetry book right now.
Yes.
Okay. What do your poems focus on? What do you talk about in your poems?
I think I got a lot of inspiration from moving, from transporting, or from traveling. When you stay at a place, you feel stuck sometime. But when you start to moving, when you start to seeing how world big it is, I get a lot of thoughts from that. And I think I learned a lot from that. So I write what my thoughts from my journey.
Can you share a little bit? For example, what's your favorite poem about?
For example, I wrote a poem about swimming class. For me, I feel like swim is very similar like flying. So I describe the feeling of swimming as flying. It's like butterfly flying in the air. And so when you swim in the swimming pool, you will start to kick your foot, right? And the water feels like clouds.
I see.
So I make it's a symbol or something.
Okay. I have a question because you write poetry, and I was wondering what your thoughts are about the Taiwanese audience when it comes to literary works. Because what I mean by that is I kind of feel that Taiwan as a society, especially in Taipei, people live fast-paced lives. And I feel for somebody to be able to take a moment to reflect and think about things and then be able to write a poem about it, you need time to yourself and time to think. Would you say that there is a big audience of people who enjoy poetry, and is poetry something that is well established here in Taiwan?
I would say there's a very small amount of audience of poetry in Taiwan, but small amount still, maybe I would say thousands of people who likes it, and still it's kind of a number.
From your experience, because you published a couple of books on poetry, what would you say are the challenges of getting one's work published here in Taiwan?
I think when it was just a hobby, it's very casual. You can do everything you want. You can write it any way you want. But when it comes to talk about publisher, they will start asking you, so why do you think people will buy your book? Or who do you think people will buy? And then so it becomes more complicated. You need to make a plan and make a proposal for publisher. So it become a business things.
Was it hard for you to get published? Like the second time when you looked for a publisher, was it difficult before they agreed?
I think it is still difficult.
Okay.
For example, when I want to publish my second book, I think I emailed 3 publication and 2 publication just reject me. But the third one take it. So I think still it's not always lucky and always be acceptable.
And all of these works that you did, the poems that you wrote, you did it while working, right?
The second book, yes.
You were doing it as a part-time activity, meaning it wasn't something you put your full time into. So how did you balance time with your work in writing?
I think it's a very great question because I'm still learning this. I'm always try to take times from my working life to do something like readings or writing. And this always depends on different works and different stage of my life. I remember when I did my first job after I graduated, I really feel unhappy because I don't have time to write anymore. Although I was work for a publication at that time, I still feel like I'm so far from publish my book. So it's creepy things. So then I decided to quit at that time because I want to have more time to write. But I think for now, when I'm more casual in my life, I feel I can do writing and other works at the same times. Because I think for me now, writing work is not my career, right? It's still as a habit as in my life. So it's more like I can spend maybe an hours a day to do it, and it would be okay for me now.
So during that 1 hour that you give yourself to write, for example, what's your process like? Do you just go to a little corner and then you're like, okay, I have 1 hour, go, and then you just write? Or sometimes do you just have a thought and then it just starts writing? What's your process like?
Of writing?
Yeah.
Okay. I will write the writing plan first.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. So because I'm now thinking a writing project in a book now, so I will make it as clear as I can to do a writing plan, such as, okay, how many works are concluded in my book? So if it's 60, it means that if I want to finish a book, I need a year. And I need to finish a poem every 5 days. So I think it's a very regular thing, and it needs a lot of plan.
Do you get writer's block? Meaning sometimes nothing comes to mind and you don't know what to write?
Yes, of course, sometimes.
What do you do then?
I just write diary or anything come out in my mind, or I just put down my laptop and go to do something else.
And then after some time, do you?
Yes, and when you get ready, you can come back again.
What if nothing comes to you? Does that ever happen? Like nothing. There's absolutely
yes,
nothing.
Of course. I think I just didn't write anything in half year already.
Really? Okay.
I write some diary, but it's not becoming a work now.
A poem, I see. And for somebody who wants to start writing poetry but has no experience and doesn't know what to start, what would your advice be to them?
Okay, I think there is a little trick to feels like finish a poem.
Oh, okay.
It's like you can name every poem. When you give it a name, it just feels like it finished.
Like a title?
Like a title, yes. Because poetry is a very free writing form, so it can contain only a sentence or even 2 sentences or 3 sentences. It all works. Some poems, it really has only a sentence.
Oh, okay.
So you can do it. But mostly, my most important thing is you need to give it a title.
Okay. Is there any other thing you want to add before we end this interview?
Okay, so a lot of people ask me, so what is the point? What is not point? When I start to write poem, this issue also disturb me sometimes. But now I don't think I really have an answer about that. But I will say that if you read enough poetry, you will find that poetry, they don't have a shape. It's a lot of style. Someone writes very long poetry. Someone writes very short poetry. And someone writes it in Taiwanese. And someone writes it half English and half Chinese. So I think poetry is about break the rule. So someone will say poetry is something. But I think the most interesting poetry is always about that something surprise you.
Niya, would you be willing to share one of your poems with us?
Okay, I want to share a poem from my second book. It's called 比少更少,
which means lesser than less.
Yes.
Okay.
底片机没有上膛，光线闯过几千次空门，却没有偷走东西。杂志上的美少女还在那里，时针从1点挪到5点，清晨比日出更早降临。我仅是坐着，就会老，就会迷失，而且这不能解释为一种抵达。桌角的干燥花为了对抗生长，需要经历真正的死亡。牺牲世纪就可以交换到的恒长如新，看起来很廉价。有所失去必有所获得吗？我以为我总有一天会懂，但直到现在都还没有。
Could you tell us what it's about?
I am describing a feeling in a winter afternoon. I think I was just sitting there for several hours, seeing that the the sun gets darker, sunset. And then I feel like I got older in that afternoon. So I try to describe how time feels for me at that time. But I use some item to describe it, like a camera. Because camera, you always think you can capture time. I think it can't, because when you picture a photo, the young lady still get outside the photo.
Thank you so much, Niya, for your time. I really appreciate you staying here and sharing with us your story, your journey of becoming a poet, and also like sharing your own poem with us. Thank you, Niya.
Thank you very much.
This is Ching and Cho.
And Mary Ann Shoko.
See you guys next week. Bye.
Hey y'all, you're listening to Radio Taiwan International. And if you're liking what you're hearing, we got so much more on our website. Go to en.rti.org.tw and you'll see a programs tab. Click it and pick your flavor. From current events to pop culture to island advice to fantastic fiction. Come check us out at en.rti.org.tw.